The following clip is a highlight from the most recent episode of Tusk Talk. If you guys enjoyed this highlight, make sure to leave a like and a comment on this video, as well as check out the description below for a link to the full episode of Tusk Talk, where me and my buddy AJ touch on a wide range of topics. And if you guys want to see more, make sure to go over there as well. Add suggestions to what topics or what improvements we can make to the show. But guys, hope you enjoy this highlight, and I'll see you next time.
So, Can I introduce this subject because I've been itching to talk about it all day.
You want to talk about the Chicago kidnapping?
Yes.
All right.
Because it hits so close to home for me.
Well, for me too. What? Chicago?
Well, yeah, Chicago, but it's on a personal level for me because it involves a mentally handicapped person.
All right.
And I used to have family that, I still do have family that have mentally handicapped conditions. Yeah, and this is inexcusable. And I'm so glad that at least the judge that presided over their bond basically told them to go F themselves and that this is all inexcusable.
Well, do we want to start out with what happened?
Yeah, so the TLDR, and it's expansive since today. So,
start from the beginning, like what happened. You know, what's the build up to the story.
All right, so four African Americans, Jordan Hill, Brittany Covington, Tess Faye Cooper, and Tanisha Covington. All of them are 18 except for Tanisha, who is 24.
He's got a different article than I do. Unless this is
I know this is a TLDR, so I've condensed. But they basically they led a poor young man who was 18 years old. They led him to believe that it was a sleepover, but it turned out to be a kidnapping and torture. The young white male was basically
mentally disabled.
Well, yeah, he was mentally disabled, but the guy that picked him up, his name, Jordan Hill, picked him up in a stolen van, and instead of taking him directly to his house like the parents or guardians, whichever of the poor guy is, which I guess it would be guardians now since he's of legal age, but anyway, he was supposed to be dropped off for a sleepover, and that's what the parents thought.
Yeah.
And then it turns out that they kidnapped this guy and threw him in the back of a van. And from the reports, they started the torture and the beatings from the van. That had happened for up to 48 hours. And eventually, they did film parts of it on Facebook Live, which I think was even more inexcusable. And the only reason why he escaped was that a neighbor complained and threatened to call police over the noise that they were making, and it was the neighbors downstairs. So they did the four African Americans did the sensible thing, and they went and broke down the neighbor's door and stole something from him to basically silence him, which that only made him call 911 faster.
Yep.
Fortunately, the disabled man fled during this neighborly dispute and was found by a police officer while the victim was walking outside in cold weather wearing nothing but an inside-out tank top, jean shorts, and sandals. Not exactly winter weather wear.
No, and especially not winter weather for Chicago.
Yeah, especially during one of the coldest days of the week, from what I remember.
Yeah.
It's getting cold. And wasn't it snowing, too, at some point?
I think it might have been snowing, or it was right before it started snowing.
Right
when that happened.
And this was Tuesday. This was Tuesday afternoon, I believe, is when he finally left.
Yeah.
They started the kidnapping on Saturday. The parents didn't file a missing persons report until that Monday, whenever they realized there was something wrong. And it just gets worse. I keep finding worse crap, and this is what makes it completely inexcusable.
Well, first off, the big part of the story is a lot of people, obviously during their little Facebook live stream, he was getting wailed upon, getting tortured, while the people, torturing him were yelling, "Fuck Trump" and "Fuck white people."
Yeah.
And that was probably the biggest thing, because at that point it starts to become questioning of it gets worse. Well, at least that part, it starts to become a question of a hate crime.
Yeah, but technically, and I'll get to the legalese later because I've actually done research on this, I think.
You think?
So,
by the way, Tusk Talk is not, we're not lawyers, so.
Yeah, we're not lawyers, but we're armchair lawyers, so.
We're on the internet. We pretend to be lawyers, just like AJ pretends to be a doctor.
Yes. Anyway, you completely just blew me off track there.
We're talking about, fuck Trump, fuck white people. You said it gets worse.
Yes. They wound up ripping his sweatshirt. They, of course, beat him. They took a knife and held him at knife point and told him to say "fuck Trump" or "I love black people." They even cut a piece of his scalp off, because that makes sense. Cut a piece of his scalp off because why not?
Right.
And of course, as I've said a couple times already, what's the sensible thing to do when committing a crime? Let's just throw it on Facebook.
Yeah, throw it out in the public for everyone to see.
Yeah, because we want our 15 minutes of fame, and they're getting it. They're getting it right now. That's the sad thing. We know they're cocky little sons of bitches. Face getting flustered here. They showed their cocky little faces because of their mugshots, and every single one of them, or at least both of the males did, they had a cocky little face to it. They're like, yeah, we know we did it. And guess what? We're becoming infamous because of it.
Yep.
Oh, look! I can do something too. Woohoo! Look at me. I unbuttoned my shirt. One button. You can see the rest of my chest hair.
Hey, thank God we're not live streaming on Twitch. We get banned at that point.
Too much cleavage, bond. Hell, yeah. I'm fat enough, maybe. But what really gets me is that they were proud of this. And the judge even called them out when they discussed their bond. And the judge basically said, I forget the exact quote, but it was like, do you not know shame? What would, I gotta look up the quote because I'll let you look it up, but so that way I can kind of continue. But fortunately, all four of those assholes got denied bail, which was a recent, which unfortunately would have come out about the same time as the Fort Lauderdale shooting, but it got covered up by the Fort Lauderdale shooting. So
yeah.
Fortunately, I found it, but have you found the quote yet?
Not yet. I've actually was kind of looking at it, and then you started saying that they got denied bail, and I showed the headline to the people.
Oh, okay. All right. Good.
I'm not finding the quote asking that the judge, something to the effect of, do you not feel shame or anything? Was it in that article that you linked me?
No, it would have been in another article, but I will get it for you real quick. No sense of decency. That's what it was.
No sense of decency. Have you no?
Where was your sense of decency? Yeah, where was your sense of decency?
Yeah.
And that's a good point. Where was their sense of decency?
They didn't have one.
Yeah. And as once again, I'm gonna repeat myself. I feel like I'm repeating myself because I've discussed this with several people already. If the roles were reversed and the skin colors switched, there would be riots in the streets, there would be protests everywhere, there would be all sorts of shenanigans.
The Black Lives Matter movement would have gone ape shit.
Yeah, they would have gone completely nuts over this. Because in this scenario, four white men would have, or four white people would have beat up one mentally disabled black man.
Exactly.
And on both sides, it's completely inexcusable because you're torturing a human being.
Yeah.
A human being that cannot defend for themselves.
Yeah.
Hell, beat up a normal white guy for Christ's sake, but you got to take it out on a mentally disabled person?
Yeah. That's
Are you fucking kidding me?
That's the big one right there for me too. It's like, yeah, black people beating up a white guy, or white guys beating up a black guy. That's bad enough. But whenever you throw in the mentally disabled part in it, which, you know, it's harder for them to defend themselves because it's hard for them to process what's going on. Because,
yeah, and this kid had schizophrenia and attention deficit disorder, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, and a lot of the people that are mentally disabled that I know, they're always they're usually the nicest, the friendliest people.
Absolutely.
They look at everyone as their friend. They do not expect to get this type of treatment, this type of torture.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
The fact that they took advantage of this young man's disability is disgusting.
I wouldn't even use the word disgusting. They're complete garbage.
They're deplorables.
All four of them.
All four of them are deplorables. Yeah, take that one, Hillary.
I'm trying to be serious here. I'm trying to be pissed off and have a scowl on my face, and you come in with this deplorable nonsense.
Well, don't they fit in the basket of deplorables to do that type of bullshit? I mean, let's be honest here.
They've transcended the basket of deplorables. They've gone into a new realm of bullshit.
They've gone into a deeper realm of hell. They
need to go deeper. That's not what she said.
Hey, you're yelling at me about making jokes. You made the joke there.
I saw an opportunity and I had to take it. But, to me, this kind of just, it's disgusting. As you said, disgusting. It's garbage. It's just terrible. Some excerpts from some news stories, by the way, and these are some various reports out of Chicago. I think ABC, CBS. NBC, CBS, and I think WGN also too. And these are all compiled, so I don't know which one's which. But from Commander Kevin Duffin of the Chicago Police Department, this is via ABC7 Chicago. This is the only one that I actually sourced. That's when they tie him up and the racial slurs and the deference to his mental capacity starts coming out. That's primarily one of the reasons they were charged with the hate crime. Investigators said that they do not believe the attack was premeditated, but they may have escalated under the influence of drugs and alcohol. Police said that police said that they decided to pursue hate crime charges, considering the totality of the victim's diminished mental capacity, the fact that he was bound, and racist statements were made on the video. So basically, the reason why they have hate crime, and I'll get to that later, because fun Illinois law stuff, basically they're going to charge them hate crimes, and I think that's absolutely what they should have done.
Now, isn't there a specification on what hate crime they did, whether it's racial or mental disability related?
I know exactly what it is, and I guess I'll get into that. Because I've actually looked up I looked up the potential sentencing in years, and I've got it all listed out. So hate crime is a Class 4 felony in Illinois for the first offense. For the second offense, I think it's Class 2 felony, I believe. Don't quote me on that because I haven't written it down. And that's 1 to 3 years in prison with up to $25,000 in fines. And if Al Sharpton and his long list of lawyers show up to this, that's the first thing to go. I guarantee it.
You think the first thing to go would be the hate crime charge?
Because they're going to contest it and say that it was freedom of speech or some stupid crap like that. When in reality, it was truly a hate-filled or hate-motivated crime.
Do you really think, though, that Al Sharpton would even get involved with this just because of how bad this thing was? Because at this point, I can't predict him. I don't know. I can't even predict him. Yeah.
And he's so off the wall. He could show up. He could not. And it all depends on what kind of lawyers that they have. Do they have Chicago lawyers? Or do they have some small town lawyer? And the poor family, they're going to wind up having to get lawyers and stuff like that because once this goes into civil,
yeah, or public defenders. You know what I mean? For the criminal charges, at least. But yeah, I swear, if Al Sharpton was dumb enough to try to defend these people for torturing this kid, because he's
over
18.
2 days.
Yeah, for 2 days. And we call him, I say kid, but he's 18, he's legally adult, but with his mental capacity.
I have something.
No.
And this is, I'm calling out the media here. I'm calling out the media. They spun it. They either unintentionally or intentionally spun this to where it wasn't as bad. It didn't seem as bad.
Oh, like CNN and all those guys, whenever they first got wind of it. Oh my God. I saw the spin happening on CNN with the former, like, one of the former press secretaries for the Bernie Sanders campaign, I think it was. Democrat contributor. She tried to spin it and try to make it seem not as bad, that it was caused by, the whites oppressing the blacks and all sorts of crap. It's like, when are we going to have them take personal responsibility?
And not just that, but we've got articles that say that for what amounts to be black teens, I think they said African American, I don't remember. At this point, it doesn't matter. They're interchangeable. But 4 African American teens beat up white male.
Yeah.
They have to make sure that it's teens and not, because they're all the same age except for the one gal that's older. They're all the same age. Why say one's a male, an adult,
and the rest of them are teens?
Yeah. They're the same age.
Yeah.
And that's the spin, and you've got to look for that. It's just, and it's interesting to see once you see it, because all media outlets do it. Fox does it, CNN does it, ABC does it, local news does it.
Yeah.
Everybody does it.
Do you think that spin even works as well today as it may have worked like 10, 15 years ago? Because I think people with the internet and as many resources as they have, unless they're just focusing on one source, they kind of realize, look, these guys are kind of pushing something.
General public tends to look at only one source.
Yeah, unfortunately, true. Yeah.
And they either get their news directly from CNN, from Fox, or from MSNBC. And if you get it from MSNBC,
yep, you're not getting anything like that. You're not getting
you're getting more spin than an Adam Wainwright curveball. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I looked up some of the sentencing. Every single one of them gets a hate crime
charge.
I think, charge. Aggravated unlawful restraint, felony aggravated kidnapping, and aggravated battery with a deadly weapon. 3 out of the 4 get a residential burglary charge for charging into the neighbor's house or neighbor's apartment and kicking down the door.
Right.
And then Hill only gets the possession of the stolen motor vehicle. So I tallied it up, and if the system were to work in terms of what the laws have written, then these are the years in jail that they should expect. Hill should wind up getting 21 to 82 years in prison.
Ooh.
Cooper and Brittany Covington should get 18 to 75 years, and Tanisha should get 15 to 68 years. And this is because felony aggravated kidnapping is a Class X felony, which is the highest felony in the state of Illinois.
Yeah.
6 to 30 years with a fine of $25,000 or less. Second time they have this felony aggravated kidnapping is natural life in prison. Then they get a Class 4 hate crime, and that's a felony. These are all felonies, I should add.
Yep.
Hate crime has 1 to 3 years in prison with up to $25,000 in fines, which usually the prison sentence kind of goes away.
Right.
Aggravated unlawful restraint is a Class 3 felony, which is 2 to 5 years. Aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, it has different sections. There's like Class 3, Class 4, or Class 3, Class 2, and Class 1 or something like that.
What's the class they got to charge on right now?
This charge should be a Class X felony because a mentally disabled person was the victim. That's another 6 to 30 years with a fine of $25,000 or less, and I mistyped that as time. The residential burglary charge is a Class 2 felony, and that's 3 to 7 years in prison. And possession of a stolen motor vehicle is a Class 2 felony, and that's 3 to 7. So, in effect, they're going to be, if all charges are sustained and all charges are brought through and they actually use what's worded in the law, then we should expect anything from 15 to up to a maximum of 82 years in prison. Right. Which...
Is there anything about parole as far as, like, if they have a chance at parole, or...
Judging by how the judge shot down the idea of bail, I don't think parole is an option. Especially with 2 Class X felonies, I don't imagine parole is going to be a thing.
Right.
But who knows? Not to mention, a couple of these also have an extended, if they decide to extend it. And that's, I think, an extra 5 or 10 years added on. But then again, legalese, and I'm not a lawyer, so I could be off by a few years or a lot, but that's quite a significant amount of years, and especially with 2 of them having a criminal record already, with the latest being Hill in 2015, with another possession of a stolen motor vehicle and residential burglary charge.
So he's got felonies on his record already?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
that guy's going to jail, regardless, for at least 15 years, I think.
21. I think the minimum is 21 on my screen anyway. But
yeah, but you know they're going to try to do some sort of plea bargain. But I would expect him to be in jail for at least 10 to 15 years minimum.
He needs to be in jail for a long time.
Yeah, but you know the legal system. They will do plea bargains. The only way that's not going to happen is if you have the prosecution, the district attorney, whoever's going to be in charge of this case, to represent the people of Chicago or the state of Illinois, or whatever this, state or federal law, whatever kind of law this is going to be fought under, is if that district attorney goes in and tries to throw the book at him. Because I think this is a big enough case that because that type of position is always put to a vote, that they're going to go after it. Because you have a victim who's mentally disabled. You have what seems to be some racial aspect to it. And you have, just the overall, a lot of people have already seen the video, they've seen the images, and it is disgusting, it is appalling. I couldn't
even watch it.
Yeah.
Like, I saw maybe 1 second of it, and I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
I think this is a case where I think the district attorney is going to try to throw the book at him.
I certainly do. I hope they throw multiple books at him.
I hope
constant books.
I hope they all at least get 20, and I hope that if they're repeat offenders like that one guy, the Cooper guy, I believe he said, I'm really thinking that's going to be like a 30 or 40 year minimum that he gets.
I hope so.
I really don't think that they're going to give a plea bargain. I really don't. I think they're going to throw the book at him.
I may be cynical, but remember what state we live in.
Exactly.
Remember what country we live in. Remember what city this happened in. It's possible, and it's always a threat.
Yeah.
And these people knew what they did, and they were smug about it. They knew what they were doing, even though the police didn't have said that it probably wasn't premeditated. I'm willing to believe that it was, and they're going to try to weasel their way out of it.
Yeah, not premeditated, my ass. That had to have been. Why else would you try to set up a sleepover to bring this kid in? Why?
Because they didn't think. And that's what a lot of these idiots do, is they don't think. They don't think about the consequences. They don't think about anything but, oh, hey, this is going to be cool. Or, I need 15 minutes of fame. Let me just do whatever.
Yeah.
It's despicable.
Yeah. I think we probably need to get off this topic because you're about to rage quit so hard. I can tell. Final thought.
Well, okay, hang on a minute.
We've already been going after this topic for like 15, 20 minutes.
Okay. And this is kind of a jab at our president right now. Race relations should be hella better than what they are now. And to an extent, they kind of are. But when we have issues like this, where it's clear that it was racially motivated, and to be fair, both sides have thrown stones at each other.
Yeah, there's been racial problems on both sides of the aisle. On every single race has had some sort of issue with another.
Unfortunately, I feel like it's going to be a generational thing, where it's going to take a little while for people to become equal, and that's a shame, because we should be better than what we should. We finally have our first, no matter what you think of the guy, we finally had our first president be an African American, which was completely unheard of by even 5 years before he was elected.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't think back in 2008 that they would even have the opportunity to vote for a black president, and 2008 comes around and there we go.
If I were President Obama, I would say I would try to use my weight to be the first African American president for good. I would try to heavily push racial unity between, or whatever the correct word is, but it's essentially racial unity between all races.
Right. And
I hate to admit it, but he really hasn't done much about it. He's kind of said, yeah, it's kind of bad, but I see it's getting better, and I hope it's getting better.
Yeah, meanwhile,
hope can only get you so far.
Yeah, meanwhile, there's a bunch of turmoil between the races. You have, all these, black on white or white on black crimes, and it's causing riots and everything, and all across the country. So, I don't know. I don't think he's really done anything for racial relations. I kind of wonder if he's kind of made things slightly worse.
Personal opinion, and it's just my personal opinion. I think he has made it worse because of his inactivity. Had he gone out and said, "Hey, if he took the MLK approach and said we should respect our fellow man regardless of his color."
Well, I think he's tried that, but I honestly think
but his
that
voice is too quiet.
Yeah, he does not get out there and tell people to stop it. Yeah. He kind of says we should be getting together. But that's to the most extent he does. That's
yeah. And as I said, this is a new norm.
Yeah,
that we're living in.
Unfortunately, it's a new norm.
And I just want things to be better. This is not the America that I dreamed of 10, 15 years ago. Yeah, I expected to be standing on an edge of a cliff, wielding an American flag with a bald eagle sitting right on my shoulder, while I sing the Star Spangled Banner with those Blue Angel jets flying over my head. All the while, everybody in America is coming together to defeat the communists once and for all. But look at where we are now.
Ladies and gentlemen,
fighting with each other.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have AJ on full screen right now. Take his face and make a piece of art in Photoshop with that exact same description and use it and make a photo, send it to us on Twitter. You see his Twitter handle right there. You see mine right here. Go and do some sort of Photoshop piece with that.
Yeah. Let me just pull out my airsoft gun to make it even better. Just America.
Fuck yeah.
Also, that trigger discipline, though.
Yep, trigger discipline. Yep.
But I guess another final thought too.
Jeez, are we Jerry Springer now? Good God.
Much. It certainly is depressing.
Yeah.
And okay, I'm not going to read the press secretary of the White House because he's a useless pile of dirt. I don't like him. But there has been some good coming out of this. And I did want to mention this too. There has been a lot of good coming out of this, especially from the African American community, which I greatly admire. The grandmother, of course, there's some good person rhetoric coming out with the grandmother of one of them.
It's protector of like a child.
Yeah, but there is some good coming out of this as soon as I find it. This is once again per ABC 7 Chicago. A group of West Side ministers spoke out Thursday to condemn this brutal attack. They said they were called to act after hearing from their congregations. And they said that they will pray for and donate to assist the victim. There's a couple of quotes here. This is not who the West Side is. This is not a representation of the African American race in Chicago at all, said Reverend Ira Acree, from Greater St. John Bible Church. And also, quote, sin is a reproach to any people, but we also condemn the use of social media to highlight this, said Reverend Walter Arthur McCrae, National Black and Evangelical Association. So there is some good coming out of this. That people are actually willing to donate to help a poor disabled man in need.
Yeah,
and his family is just focusing on being together as a family and trying to get through this tough time. And kind words like that go a long way.
Yeah, and I think this is kind of a thing where, where the identity politics, this is a reason why it needs to stop, because we have, obviously we have these African American men and women who torture this poor white kid. And a lot of people are going to use identity politics to say, hey, this is what the black community is all about, or, yada, yada, yada. We kind of need to get back to a point where, we don't judge people by the color of the skin, but the content of their character. Actually follow the words of Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah.
And not just pretend to follow the words, but to actually
Wooly, we're white. We're not allowed to use Martin Luther King.
Dude, if Martin Luther King was alive today, he would say, look, these are the people.
He would straight slap a bitch.
Probably.
Because of how terrible things have gotten.
He probably would, although he was a nonviolent person, so.
Yeah, so he probably would have metaphorically done it. But
now if it was Malcolm X, he'd probably slap a bitch.
Which, Malcolm X, towards the end of his life, he kind of...
He started to turn towards the peaceful way until he got assassinated. Yeah, so... But yeah.
But it seems like a lot of people are kind of divisive on the whole thing, whether they should follow MLK or Malcolm X.
Right.
And that's kind of sad that we have to have this division, which I will say both do support the cause in a certain way. The peaceful protests bring unity and they bring legitimacy to their cause, while the Malcolm Xers bring immediate attention to the fact. So they're not wrong, but there's a better way to do it.
Right.
A more civil way.
There's an end goal that they're both trying to reach. It's just they go about it in different ways.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's just get off the topic.